Okay. Well, aloha, everybody. Good morning. The music will be back after these important words. Okay. But before we begin, I'd like. Hey, Lama. Okay, we got the. You got it? Okay to continue? Okay. Hey, Lama, would you please give us a puli? Mahalo.
Happy end of Apelila. Tomorrow's May Day. Wear your lei and your appropriate lole and enjoy the new month. E pule kako. Au he o Yehova kia kua kamakua loho kamako haku o Yesu Kristo. E hoi mako kau po aloha. I ako ko mai nei I mo ko alo. A ke ho'onani ho mai kai mililani ho sana ka nei mako ia oe. E kau mai ko aloha maluno mako pakahi apau. Maluno na kahu vai vai. Nā luna ho o malu o ke ia mau komike e kolu. Ka mako hui ana, ka po e hai o lelo. Ka mako po nui nei. A me na kanaka ea e kokua nei ma na au like ole. A pau ka mako mau halawai, e hoi hoi ia ia mako ko mako wahi kupono. Makai no kau keiki hiva hiva o Yesu Kristo ka ole o pule. Amene. Mahalo.
Here we go. All right, sorry for starting a little late. We had some technical difficulties. This meeting can be viewed via live stream on OHA's website at www.oha.org/livestream. If you would like to testify on any agenda item during this Zoom meeting, please raise your hand when that subject is announced. When called upon, please unmute your mic. You will be given the ability to turn your camera on during the testimony. When you're done, please mute your mic. We're recording today's meeting for the sole purpose of producing written minutes, which will become the official record of this meeting. In order to eliminate any background noise which can affect the quality of the sound on OHA's live stream and making it difficult to hear the speaker, please mute your device's microphones until you're called on to speak. At the prompting of the chair, BAE staff will do a roll call to determine quorum at the beginning of every meeting. 5 board members present in person and virtually constitutes a quorum. Roll call votes will also be called to determine the board's position on committee matters. A simple majority of committee members present will constitute the position of any matters that require a vote of its members. Trustees who are joining us by Zoom, please enable your cameras for the duration of the meeting if you're able to do so. All other OHA staffers, please enable your cameras when you need to address the committee. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand, and when recognized by the chair, please proceed to speak, and lower your hand and mute your mic when you're done. For those trustees joining this from a remote location, such as your home, please state the name of any person 18 years or older who are present with you at your location. And trustees, if you need to leave the meeting, please inform the chair by announcing that you will be leaving. Okay? Somebody's calling in already. Okay, very good. I never gavelled in. Did I gavel in? Okay, let me gavel in. The April 30th, 2025 meeting of the Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment is being called to order. The time is now 9:10. Leanne, please call the roll for attendance.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Here.
Trustee Akina.
Aloha mai kako.
Trustee Alapa.
Present.
Trustee Kahele. I see.
Present.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Eo.
Trustee Waihe'e.
Present.
Chair Galutaria.
Ew.
8 present. You have a quorum.
Just for the record, we want to say hello to Trustee Ahuna, who's in Boston, Massachusetts. He's on a repatriation tour. So he'll be bringing some very valuable objects home. Joining the trustees today is OHA's COO, Ulupono, along with some of her administrative staff. I'd like to call on her to introduce the staff members joining us today, please.
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha kahiaka. So joining me today, online and in person, we have Chief Financial Officer Ramona Hink, Endowment Director Ryan Lee, Interim Corporation Counsel Everett Ota, Interim Senior Legal Counsel Nichi Ozawa, Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation Elena Fardin, Senior Director of Hawaiian Cultural Affairs Hailama Fardin, Director of Advocacy Lena Alalei, Director of Communications Bill Brennan, Interim IT Director Kevin Schock, and IT System Administrator, Engineer, and Administrator Arlene Aguinaldo. Mahalo.
Okay, mahalo. Next, we will be moving to the first item on the agenda, the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 5th, 2025 Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment meeting?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
So moved. Second. Mahalo. Any discussion on the matter? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote to approve. Lei?
Trustee Ohuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Wahe'e.
Yes. Chair
Galutaria. You have 8 yes votes passes.
Second.
Hearing, seeing none. Lei, please call for the vote.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Wahe'e.
Yes.
Chair Galutaria.
Aye.
8 yes votes, motion passes.
Mahalo. I'd also like to recognize Naivi Wardeman, who's to my left over here. Good morning. For your counsel today. I'd like to review our public policy guidelines, members. Public testimony should be limited to matters listed on today's meeting agenda. If issues are raised about items not on the agenda, you will be called out of order, and I'll direct you to limit your testimony to the item currently being considered on the agenda. Your name will be called, your microphone will be unmuted when it's your turn to testify. If you are not audible when called upon, you'll be muted and the next testifier called. State your name, organization, if applicable, agenda item you'll be speaking on as well. Oral testimony will be limited to 5 minutes. A timer will be on the screen to count down. Your mic will be automatically muted once you've completed your oral testimony or your allotted time for testimony has expired. Let's proceed to new business.
Chair, we have Jermaine Meyer, but I'm not sure if it was on the minutes or if it's coming up.
Oh, Jermaine, okay. I guess, okay, before we proceed, then let's find out. Jermaine, what would you like to share?
Aloha, Chair. On this new agenda item, 3A, 3B, 3C, and 3F.
Yes?
Is it okay to go ahead and speak on 3A?
Let me officially bring us into that space, and then you can go right ahead, okay?
Mahalo.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge, Kiao, you're going to be presenting some of this, or present item 3A. A presentation by Ulupono Initiative regarding a proposed Memorandum of Understanding with OHA for capacity building to pursue federal grant funding opportunities in local food, renewable energy, clean transportation, and fresh water. Do we have someone to provide a presentation?
I'm gonna call on Everett Ota, our interim general counsel, to provide some information regarding this. I don't have info.
Okay, Jermaine, just stand by, okay? We're going to ask Everett to come up and preface what you're going to say. Everett, please come forward.
Good morning, Chair Galateri and trustees. I can help introduce this item, and in the absence of anyone from Ulupono Initiative otherwise appearing, for testimony, I can walk through the slides provided here. Is there anyone online from Ulupono for this matter? Is there anybody from Ulupono Initiative on this to present on this matter? Okay. Okay.
Everett, perhaps we would want an Ulupono representative sitting in front of us. So we can table this,
Okay.
I think, for a future meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. But is there a reason why they're not here? They're on the agenda.
I don't know if, the extent to which, they were asked to appear today. I'm familiar with this memorandum of understanding, but I wasn't serving as a primary contact with Ulupono on this. But I
Okay,
can speak to the proposed agreement, but I can't, of course, speak maybe to the background of their organization. But if you prefer to table or defer
I
this
think
matter.
it's probably in our best interest to do that.
Okay.
So that we can get a representative in front of us.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll
Great.
just table that. Jermaine, now hearing that, I would hope that you would wait until the representative's in front of us and after the presentation. Jermaine?
No, for sure, Chair, but I just wanted to bring to your attention that as of 10 minutes ago, including this weekend, there was no folder posted on the BAE meeting website. So I see on the screen right now, BAE folder 43025, but it was not posted on the website as of 10 minutes ago, as of when I logged into the meeting. And so there was nothing regarding administrations 3A, 3B, or 3C. None of those presentations were posted online, so I don't know how I can give adequate feedback or public testimony on my concerns regarding those agenda items if there's nothing on the presentation. So if you don't mind, for the next two presentations, I can listen to it because and then put in a UIPA request for an actual copy of it. But I can assimilate the information and give my public testimony at the end of the presentation, if that's okay with you.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Mahalo.
Thank you for your patience. And I'll take all responsibility for what happened. If it wasn't posted, it's on me. Okay? So let's proceed to new business item number 2, members. And thank you, Everett. Yeah. And this is, I'd like to acknowledge our Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation, Elena Farden, to present item 3B. And members, it's the intention of the chair to bring, when we do have adequate time, to bring the leadership of the PAYAs to the table so that we can hear from them directly about their particular programs. And if we have any questions, we can address them at that time. So, Elena, if you would please proceed.
Sure, mahalo, Chair and Vice Chair, and mahalo, trustees. There should be 3 handouts within your packet. One is an overview, the other one would be the flow chart. I'm going to ask if Vice Chair Akaka, if she can read the purpose for us, please. Okay. The purpose of the OHA participation in Oʻahu neighborhood boards Oh, I'm sorry.
Are we?
This would be the purpose for the Mana'i Mauli Ola flowchart trustee reference guide for April 2025. It'll look like this.
Thank you.
If you'd like, I can read it while you folks get your
You know what?
materials prepared. So the purpose of the trustee reference guide for the Mana'i Mauli Ola
I got
flowchart.
it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Sorry, was it not in order here? Okay. So the purpose is the Mana'i Mauli Ola MiMO flowchart serves as a strategic decision-making and accountability tool that visually maps the alignment of OHA's programs, initiatives, and investments to the outcomes outlined in the Mana'i Mauli Ola strategic plan.
Mahalo, trustee. Trustee Souza, can I ask you to read the description, please?
Sure. All right, this flowchart provides a clear high-level overview of how proposed or existing initiatives move through a structured vetting process. From initial concept to implementation, ensuring alignment with MiMO's 4 strategic directions: educational pathways, health outcomes, quality housing, and economic resiliency. It illustrates key decision points, cross-divisional collaboration, and evaluation checkpoints designed to uphold OHA's fiduciary responsibility, optimize impact for Native Hawaiian beneficiaries, and support continuous learning through data-driven insights.
Mahalo. Trustee Alapa, can I ask you to use, to read through how to use this flowchart?
Yes, definitely. Okay, so this flow chart is designed to guide strategic conversations and decisions about OHA's initiatives and funding proposals. Trustees may use this chart to, number one, understand how initiatives are assessed for alignment with MiMO. 2, the track flow of a project, or to track the flow of a project, or investment from concept to implementation to reporting to evaluation. Ask critical questions about strategic fit, equity, impact, readiness, and evaluation, and to ensure fiduciary and policy level oversight by verifying how initiatives are vetted for long-term beneficiary impact.
Mahalo, trustees. This is just a halepule format that we use. We ask folks to read along to help instill understanding, but also engage dialogue. I won't go through the roles and responsibilities, but I will go through the flow chart, which should be this page in your packet. So I'll do the lay of the land first, and I'll walk through each of the workflow phases, which is 1 through 10. I'm going to kindly ask if you have any questions along the way that you please document them, and we can make sure we have enough time at the end of the flow chart to walk through. On the left-hand side of your flow chart, you will see the navigation. There's 1 through 10 different work phases, each of them having a particular phase of the process of Mana'i Mauli Ola. On your flow chart, you'll see there are 4 columns above you. There's going to be 1 for leadership, 1 for strategy and implementation, 1 for our OHA Paia, and then the 4th for community and partners. These indicates the movement in which Mana'i Mauli Ola and the programs initiatives that we go. Of importance for the trustees are going to be workflow phases number 1, 3, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I'll walk through these one by one and talk through them. Again, I ask that you hold your questions to the end, and then we'll make sure that we have enough time for any questions or discussions you have. So work phase 1, this happens at the very top on your top left-hand part of the workflow. This is the approved plan. So 2019-2020, when it comes to the Board of Trustees, Mana'i Mauli Ola is approved. The 4 directions fall within it, and programs and initiatives begin to flesh out. And this is what we see in our biennium budget. From work phase 1, we go to work phase 2. This comes to strategy and implementation, where we are charged to then look at Mana'i Mauli Ola as a strategic plan and begin to ideate what different programs or initiatives will fall in line with those strategic directions. We do that through a logic model, which is a vetting process. We also begin to map out short-term, medium-term, and long-term outcomes of what that will look like. Once we get to that point, we are now in work phase 3, which comes to leadership, but also comes to the BAE and BOT. This is a critical point in which the formation of programs and initiatives come about because we want to check alignment with our trustees and the programs that we're going to be rolling out and all of the strategic directions. So this is our first touch point that S&I will have with the leadership level in vetting and talking through our different programs and initiatives to check alignment with you folks. From work phase 3, we go to work phase 4. Once we have that feedback at the trustee level, we begin to flesh out again more of the tactics and actions. Strategy is the why we're doing something. The tactics is how we're going to do them. So this is getting into the details. From work phase 4, we go to 5. This is another important and critical phase within the program initiative development. We go to 5 as community and partner engagement and consultation. Why? Because it's important before we roll out programs that we're talking with community about their priorities, what their needs are, especially if we're rolling it out regionally. We want to ensure that these programs are in alignment with what the community wants and needs and what they see. When we get that feedback from community, we revise our plans based on the feedback, and now we are in workforce 6. This is our cross-PIA collaboration. This is another critical point within the development and programs and initiatives, because as we roll them out, we know that we are going to be working with other PIA within OHA. That may be legal and compliance, that may be finance, that may be our communications or research evaluation or advocacy. We want to ensure that the way these programs are going to roll out also align with timing and budget and workload distribution with the other PIA. So that collaboration is key. From work phase 6, we go to 7. Now we've already implemented the program, we're rolling it out. We're coming back to the trustee level to let them know programs are rolling, here's where we're at, here's a progress so far. If there's an action item, then we'll bring it to the agenda. If it's an update, we'll also bring it to the trustees. We want to ensure that we're keeping you informed and that you folks have opportunities to weigh in along the process. From work phase 7, we go to 8. In implementing the program, we're also doing our reporting. 8 is where we have a formative progress report. Formative assessment is taking an assessment of where we are at that current time and not waiting for the end. Formative assessment helps us to understand if we need to make a pivot. Are we hitting our success indicators the way we intended? If not, how do we change course? What resources are needed? What expertise do we need to dive into? What, if any, information do we also need to report back to leadership so they understand what that motion is? 9 is also being able to report at a summative. So this comes later. This will be more around FY33, 2 years before the sunset of Manaʻi Mauli Ola. Summative assessment is, again, taking an overall evaluative approach on the Manaʻi Mauli Ola progress, whether that be at a program level or at a strategic level. We want to understand the impact of our programs and initiative. So summative reporting comes to the BAE, the BOT, comes to leadership, it goes within OHA and also back to our community partners. This type of progress reporting happens 3 times in workflow phases 8, 9, and 10. Once we get through 9, we're also getting through work phase 10. This is getting towards the end of our Manaʻi Mauli Ola arc. So we're beginning to plan for the next strategic plan and then wrapping up our final report on the progress and programs to both internal and external audiences and getting ready again for a new strategic plan. So this is the life cycle of a program or initiative, as well as a life cycle of the strategic plan itself. I'll stop there and see if you folks have any questions or discussion.
Members, any questions? Or Elena? Trustee Aquino.
Thank you. Mahalo for a great presentation. Just a couple of questions. Item number 8 here takes place in 2033. Is that what you said? Well, no, item 9 takes place in 2033.
Correct.
And so when would item 8 take place?
Item 8 takes place, and I know it's in really small type here, but that would be, I'm initially forecasting it to be in FY29.
Okay, thank you.
Paul? Trustee Akina? Done? Okay. Trustee Souza?
Mahalo, Mr. Chair. Mahalo, Elena. Thank you for being here. That was actually one of my questions when the formative assessment will be done. So that is a 2029. Okay.
That is when we're forecasting it to be, only because that will be after the biennium budget for FY 26 and 27. We're forecasting at that time, we should have enough data to do a formative assessment. However, we're open to feedback from leadership level and internal as well, if we need to adjust that timing.
I think, so what I've been asking for since last year, because I think we're now 4.5 years in, I think, just to get a formal report on are we meeting those I guess yeah, the goals of the Mauli Ola, or milestones in a sense. And if there's any if there's an opportunity to revise the strategic plan along the way, I have a few revisions which include housing and aligning with those needs as well. So is there an opportunity coming up that we can kind of review those outcomes, measured outcomes, and potentially revise?
I think there's definitely opportunity to think about the revision of outcomes. I would leave that at a leadership trustee level. That is your charge as a governance and fiduciary. As far as the outcomes for housing, I think we can also look at initiatives or programs that we want to roll out. If they're not in alignment and we want to see something different, or the data or baseline targets that we're using need to be different, that is always an open conversation, and I think there's flexibility there, yes.
That's good for now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, mahalo. And, bear in mind that we did restructure the board, and we have a third committee. So there's going to be different approaches to different things like housing. Okay? Oh, okay, Kai? Yeah, okay. Chair Kahele, you have a question?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the presentation, and I guess my question, or more of a comment, would be in line with Trustee Souza's comment, and maybe both either Kihao or Elena could offer some insight on the reevaluation of the strategic plan. I think most of us were probably not here when previous administrations and previous board of trustees adopted this strategic plan back in 2019, 2020. So wondering with your opinion on when a strategic plan should be formally reevaluated based on assessing progress, to Trustee Souza's point. Obviously there are changing external conditions that have occurred over the last 4 to 5 years since this plan was adopted. When do you think a strategic plan should be reevaluated, formally reevaluated?
Yeah.
I think we're definitely open to, reevaluating. I think a lot of us weren't here when this strategic plan was developed. But I do think that, there's an opportunity to come up. So as Elena shared, they've developed tactical plans, right? So from, if the outcomes are if that's the island and that's where we're trying to get, the tactical plans are the how, the canoe on which we want to get there. And so there is an opportunity coming up. And I think we could create more opportunities as well for strategy and implementation to share what those tactical plans are. The immediate opportunity coming up would be our budget briefings. So you folks can see some of the tactics and then the programs and initiatives that are coming out of that, that are aligned to the strategic plan. So I'm just saying maybe perhaps let's hear more about what they have put together, and it's very well thought out too, just as her map is. I mean, I'm super impressed over here. But the tactics are too. I mean, and they've identified targets, so that could be an opportunity. And we're definitely not opposed to refreshing, the strategic plan. I honestly don't know how often that happens in organizations, but I would ask the board to be open to hearing more about, again, the tactics, programs, services, initiatives that are coming out of the current strategic plan. And also keeping in mind, like this hui, I think Elena started in October. Uh, Anuhea started in July. She's our education director. We're still short a housing director. And so they've put together some really good initiatives, I guess, in a very short time. But again, we're not opposed to refreshing.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's
And
good.
if I can also add on to that, taking the sentiments from Trustee Souza and Trustee Kahele, as well as our Kaponui, perhaps if the trustees might consider after FY27, that would allow the S&I team to roll out the programs and initiative that they had planned for FY26 and 27 would be a grand opportunity for us to relook at Mana'i Mauli Ola if there needs to be any adjustments. By that time, we will also have data from the programs to make more informed decisions. And in addition to that, within the packet itself, one of the roles and responsibilities for the trustees with the strategic plan, you'll see that they set strategic direction and policy priorities. They approve budgets, major initiatives, and strategic plan adjustments, and they assure accountability and alignment with OHA's mission and fiduciary responsibilities. So it's well within your purview to make adjustments to the plan, but I kindly ask you folks reconsider waiting until FY27 when we have programs that we can talk about and data that can help inform specific directions.
Trustee Akaka?
Mahalo. Mahalo for providing this flow chart to go with our strategic plan. I think what would be another good visual to pair with this is having our dashboard in terms of being able to have those metrics and measurables to show what we are doing that directly impacts our beneficiaries and the community that we're serving, and so that we have that to look at besides each other to see, hey, okay, here we go to the legislature, we go to a Ways and Means info briefing or to finance and so forth. And oftentimes the question is, well, you say you're doing all these good things, but can you please show us how you're going to do that? So I think what we are, and in the near future, will be providing that dashboard. Mahalo for administration for going forward with that ask that I will bring up from time to time. I think that's really good for those that are interested in what we do, and for our beneficiaries, and for our elected officials that are interested in working hand in hand with us. I think that it's really key so that they can see that, okay, we're in 1, we're in 3, we're in 7, we're 9, 10, and this is what we have to show for it. So I think that would be something that when people are on our website, they can have the strategic plan flow chart alongside that. And then going forward, we can just keep pairing them together.
Very good.
Yeah, because I think the common question is, and that has to do with the neighborhood board meetings, and I kind of mentioned it yesterday too, is the common question is, why does OHA exist? What does OHA do? How does it affect us? So I think that will help people feel more familiar with all the things that we're doing. We're doing a lot of good things, but it's good that we provide people the opportunity to know that. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Trustee Souza?
Well, Mr. Chair, I personally feel fiscal year 27 is actually too late based on what I've been asking for. Now, not to discount the fact that we all just, started. Well, you guys just started, and we weren't here when this was taking place and being implemented initially. I think going forward, if we do the 27, it gives us time from this point to then to try and align ourselves with the strategic plan, implement programs that align ourselves, and that's your job, right? But I think my question is, up to this point, going back 4 years, has it been working? Because if it hasn't been working, and I go back to this only because prior administration had said every 3 years we'll be looking at the strategic plan. And if there's any changes that need to be made, we'll be at the table doing that together. And so I feel that if it's not working at this point, or if there's some kind of report at this point that should have been put together, because we asked multiple times and said it was almost ready. And I think the last time was about a year ago. And then so if we know at this time that it's not working,
this gives us an opportunity as a board and the ultimate decision makers here to take us in a new direction and pivot, right? And help to, so that we don't waste anyone else's time, right? You know, in implementing programs and going forth in that direction. So I want to make note of that.
Trustees, any other questions for Elena? Trustee Aquino.
Mahalo. I want to say that I really affirm the comments made by my colleagues and Trustee Akaka and Trustee Souza. What I hope is that we can communicate our strategic work in a way that the public and the media can immediately understand, a way in which our public officials can immediately understand. I tremendously value today's presentation because this is behind the scenes. This is the inner workings of the engine of strategic planning, and that's for us. I hope we're not going to release this in a news release because it's behind the stage kinds of things. But on the stage, a couple of things would be just wonderful for people to be able to access immediately. Like, what are those metrics that we really stand for? For example, the percentage of Hawaiians who will acquire and own fee simple property and have homes. The percentage of Hawaiians who will have within their neighborhood adequate medical access. Here's one that would be decreasing: percentage of Hawaiians that are incarcerated. It would be good for us to have some kind of chart so that when we're asked, what are you working on in OHA? We can actually grab those and relate them to the various stakeholders. The other thing is, we should be able right now to tell where we are. There should be at least an annual chart so that every year we see we started with this percentage of Hawaiians who have homes. Next year, we have this many. The following year, we have this many, and we're heading this direction, so that we can, in real time, say, this is working, and put more money into it. Or we can say, this is not working, and question our budget decisions and augment them. If we can do these two things, have a real focus on the metrics and a real charting and tracking of those metrics, that would be exceedingly valuable to our decision making. I'd like to encourage that.
Chair Kahele, you have something to say? Thank you, Trustee Aquino.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the comments, and I echo Trustee Souza's comments. You know, I think standard practice is, Chair, every 3 to 5 years, a strategic plan is reevaluated. You know, our partners up at Kamehameha Schools, their Kuhana Una strategic plan is updated every 5 years. And they do that because it allows them to do an annual check-in, assess progress, update any assumptions that were made, you know, when the strategic plan was first formalized and then subsequently updated, allows them to make minor course corrections and looks at new opportunities that might not have existed previously. And so I would echo his comments and think that, you know, if we have time this calendar year, given that we're already at the 5 and almost on the cusp of the 6-year point, that this strategic plan needs to be updated this calendar year, and you know, with the board's work and support.
Mahalo. Thank you very much. Trustee Aquino, I hate to disappoint you, but we do have a reporter here in the room, but I'm confident that what he writes will be positive. Thank you very much. Yes,
Mr. Chair,
Elena?
may I respond? So I hear the sentiments of the trustees and I support their ability to want to review. I do encourage them to also think through in reviewing the strategic plan, which can be renewed and revised and readjusted at their purview, is that there hasn't been an S&I team within the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to oversee specific programs or community-based initiatives to roll out in order for data to be gathered to indicate to us if our programs are working, other than perhaps grants and sponsorships, which would be a different way of measurement. As far as the metrics and reporting, Trustee Akaka, you are ahead of yourself. Definitely, that is something that we are looking at, and that's the next presentation that we have for SNI to present to the board of what the data dashboard may or look like, how it's going to be informed, who are primary, secondary, tertiary audiences, and how that data will be used, but more importantly, how that data will be protected and governed, specifically because it's for Native Hawaiians. And as far as the revision and review and adjustment for the strategic plan, I leave that to leadership to decide on how they want to bring that about, how they want to review that. I'm here to support and implement with the team. So, mahalo.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Yeah,
I just, and maybe I'll ask Helena to talk about data and, the kind of data that OHA would be able to track, right? And attribute to the work that we do, and Lahui level data, which is, what Trustee Akina refers to as what's happening at a statewide level with our Poe Hawaii. And I'm just gonna say there are challenges to attribute, and this is why I think partnerships are important, understanding what other Native Hawaiian organizations, what our government agencies are doing to contribute to moving the needle or to transforming, you know, the negative data around Native Hawaiians, because it is hard to say that my program here, which I can say, yep, I helped 50 Native Hawaiians acquire Aina or build their homes, but to say that that is what moved the needle at a Lahui level that's much more challenging. And that is where it does require a way of working with partners, working with those who are Native serving to bring that together to, figure out like, how is it as a group, like collectively, how are we moving that needle, and, what are our shared, um, goals or, outcomes, so that we can try and move that together. So I just wanted to mention that, and I don't know if Elena wants to add anything to what I just said.
in closing.
Sure. In closing, I'll build off of the example that Trustee Akina provided, the number and percentage of Native Hawaiians that are incarcerated in prison and jails. The population level data looks at it as a whole. 40% of our Native Hawaiians are in prison and jails, yet they only make up 21.8% of our population. Our target for 2035 is to reduce the amount of Native Hawaiians by 21.8%. That's only population level. However, SNI has put together a particular program or initiative on restorative justice that looks at a specialty court in which Native Hawaiians would be open to, in providing them an opportunity to go through the specialty court versus the incarceration cycle that is more punitive than restorative. With that specific program and community-based program, we'll have specific data on how influential, how impactful that specific program is compared to population data. So that will be coming in front of the trustees soon to, again, check alignment, tactics, and rollout. So thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. I appreciate the further conversation specifically regarding incarceration. I mahalo the SNI team for kind of touching on some of this previously with us in our BAE leadership prep meetings. And one thing I wanted to share that I didn't think of at that time when you had asked what my mana'o is, specifically with the incarceration. And through the years, I've thought about the impact that it is for an individual who is incarcerated, as well as what that means for their ohana, their community that they have stepped away from for that time period. And from when I was very young up until now, I've thought about what I was taught when during our monarchy times, that part of the work and remaining a part of our community, those that were incarcerated at that time, were part of their service was to fix our alahele trails. And so as the years had gone by and I would traverse and drive past them, I would think about that and what an opportunity that is for those to still remain a part of the community. And a lot of this is your identity. You're beyond just what that time that you're serving, but being able to still feel that you're contributing to your community and you're not isolated away from your community. And then also having that support system to go home to, return to, whether it's your immediate ohana or your faith-based community, whatever that is. And I think that's something that we can talk more about as time goes by in terms of partnering or having an MOU or MOA with the various organizations that we have been in contact with, that we've had site visits with, and that have do tremendous work to rehabilitate those that are serving their time as well as their ohana, so that they can become what they need to be able to remain contributing members to the community. And I really hope that we can look at perhaps our legacy land portfolios or various agricultural lands that we have, that these are places that we could work hand in hand with these various entities that exist to rehabilitate, and that our people can feel that they are able to participate in Aina-based community building and participation, and perhaps an opportunity for them to have that time with their ohana as well, to do that together. Mahalo.
Any other comments or questions, members? Yeah, in summary, if you use the va'a as a metaphor, it's going to require a sale plan. Sale plans get adjusted every day, according to the wind, according to the currents, according to the stars, according to whatever. So be prepared for some readjustments. But the island's still there. And we're still going to the same island. And so, you know, we're here for success, for your success. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. Mahalo. Let's move to the next item. Oh, Jermaine. Yes. I'm sorry. Jermaine, any thoughts?
Yes, Chair. Is it okay to give testimony on this agenda item?
I believe so. Yes.
Aloha, Chair. Aloha, Chair Galiutera, Vice Chair Akaka, Honorable Trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. I'm an OHA Beneficiary for Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment. I'm also a Nanakuli Hawaiian Homestead lessee. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify on this Mauli Ola strategic plan flow chart. I was listening to the presentation, and what comes to my mind is number 5, community engagement. I think I've seen there's SSI to lead meaningful, inclusive dialogue with community and partners on program tactics. My concern is that there's missing beneficiary engagement, because I'm not sure if community engagement means the voices of the partners will be louder than the actually community beneficiary members. And so I'm concerned that there is more levity on taking report data versus reality data. So I was hoping that there could be a step implemented between number 2 and number 3 for beneficiaries in the community, for beneficiary engagement, Native Hawaiian engagement. Before you take the partners mana'o, you incorporate the beneficiaries mana'o on the strategic plans and your strategic outcomes, but also the information from how each of these things affect their specific family. I think the Hawaiian Registry Program, OHA's Hawaiian Registry Program, is a place that data can be extracted. I heard Trustee Akina saying, oh, you know, we need to know how many Native Hawaiians have own fee simple land, but where do you get that data from? And so I'm hoping that the Hawaiian Registry Program can be assimilated into a digital platform instead of currently in its paper platform, so that you can use the email addresses or the mailing addresses of, because they have to update and renew their registration every 5 years. And so throughout the years, to dialogue with those registered Native Hawaiians on the Hawaiian Registry as far as the data that you're trying to extract, but also to get feedback from them as far as using surveys And so that's just one place that you can get survey. Of course, our neighborhood board, we have different city and state programs that come through and they do strategic planning with us. So we're in the middle of completing a 2-year city and county strategic plan for our MOKU. And so it's the Sustainable Communities Plan. Like we say things like, we don't want any, in our MOKU, we don't want any building higher than 5 floors. That was on our sustainable plan, so that in our rural area, we won't turn into a urban area. So it's kind of working with our zoning, but also protecting our zoning, and that things do not come in on the backside with special interest, but also with special, I can't remember what the name of exemptions. And so I know I'm going all over the place, but I just wanted to make sure that beneficiaries can get input somehow into the strategic plan and strategic planning, so that proper data is gathered and not just from certain institutions or partners. Kea kuapu, God bless all of you.
Mahalo, thank you. Thank you so much, Jermaine. We can extract some, suggestions from that.
Would you like me to respond, Mr. Chair? I can
Uh,
make it really quick, 2 minutes.
In
or
short
less.
form, if you would.
Sure, sir. In response to the former speaker's testimony, S&I approaches community engagement and partnership engagement through a community-based participatory research lens. That means we're engaging with them as co-researchers, as co-developers in how we're pulling data. One of the other impact ways that we do this is also going to be engaging in what we call community data dialogues, where we take data at a population level or program level, we put it into digestible forms for the communities to help us tell stories. We may see that incarceration looks like this across, but we're asking you, now that we come to your particular community in Waianae, in Nanakuli, in Kohala, in Ka'u, to say, how do you see this in your community? Is this what you're seeing? How do we ground truth it? So that is our approach. Beyond my current work here at S&I, I'm also a professional facilitator and researcher. So this is what comes with me when we work with the team together. So I just wanted to ensure the former testifier that we are coming with a community-based lens when we do engage. Thank you.
Okay, mahalo, mahalo. All right, mahalo anuilo, everybody. We're gonna wrap this item up. Okay, let's move on. Let's see here. We have proceed to business item 3C. And this is for Oʻahu neighborhood boards. Huh? Cal? Would you go ahead, proceed, please? Yes, ma'am. Community concerns first? On the agenda? Why can't I hear you? Okay, Jermaine, you're there. Okay, listen closely now. Because you
Sure.
did not have the information that you need to respond adequately to any of these items that weren't out, you may want to. I was going to call on you, but I'd prefer, if you don't mind, that we have the report from the administration on the neighborhood boards. Then you can respond. Okay.
Yes, please, Chair. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Mahalo, Chair. And so there's a few handouts in your packet regarding OHA's participation in Oʻahu neighborhood boards. And so our understanding is that this is something OHA has done in the past. And so we want to restart having presence at our neighborhood boards, specifically selected neighborhood boards. So we're looking at neighborhood boards that have high population Native Hawaiians, or where OHA has an interest, for example, Ala Moana Kaka'ako, or I believe Waialua Wahiawa, where we have Kukani Loko. And so the intent and the goal behind restarting this participation is to, one, definitely increase visibility. I think earlier there was a comment about, like, what does OHA do? Who is OHA? So we definitely want to increase visibility, establish relationships in our communities. And so first was visibility. Second is that to start to, establish and reestablish connection with our communities. The way we are set up, they come to us, right? We hold our meetings here. We do go out across the Pai'aina once a year, but this is OHA getting out into our different kaia'ulu. We are looking at doing this quarterly at this time. We're very aware of our constraints and how we're built right now. And so we'll do it on a quarterly basis. We're going to start this month in May, although some neighborhood boards have scheduled us for June. And as again, I've shared how we've determined which neighborhood boards will be attending. And the way that we're going to, the process that we have put into place for what we will share is at the ELT level or executive level, team level, we will draft some agenda items or update items, and then they'll bring it to BAE chair, vice chair, and board chair for input, and we'll make revisions based on that. So right now we are scheduled to be at a bunch of meetings in May, starting next week, I think Monday or Tuesday. I think I'm one of the first ones up. And so you'll see the agenda that we've put together. So first is just an introduction of who OHA is. We're making some revisions, talking a little bit about our kuleana as outlined by Chapter 10. We're also going to include like why we are here. I think it's going to be important as we show up at these meetings where I can't recall when's the last time we've been in these community meetings, but we want to, be transparent about why we are showing up, our desire to connect and reconnect, so we can do things like engage when Mana'i Mauliola is rolling out programs and initiatives. So that we'll spend a little bit of time. We've asked to be included in the community presentations portion of the neighborhood board agendas, and so normally they're given 10 minutes, so that's your max. And then there's Q&A after with the board, and then they usually open up for community members to ask questions. So we'll do an introduction, talk about our purpose, why we showing up, and what our intent is we're going to come quarterly. We'll talk a little bit about Mana'i Mauliola, or our 4 strategic directions. We also will share a little bit about our biennium budget, and end with our Native Hawaiian Registry program and the Board of Trustees and community purviews and schedule. And then finally, our recruitment efforts and our signing bonus that we are trying to, get people to come into the organization. We'll spend less time on those, but we will, share that. And right now we're looking at the rest of this calendar year to go out in May. It's May, June, August, and November. But come calendar year 2026, we want to be intentional and strategic about when we are showing up or coming to neighborhood boards. So we're looking at January, which can be an opportunity to share what OHA's ledge package is, right? As the legislature is opening up. April, which is when we would have our proposed biennium budget or any, realignments that are happening. July, as we are closing our fiscal year, and an opportunity to share out and present. And then October, which just keeps us on a quarterly schedule. One thing that I think we're going to add to this packet, which Trustee Akaka raised yesterday in our prep meeting, is having our ledge package, our legislative briefs for these communities. I think it's going to be, well, one, we should have Ike, be familiar with the communities, but also, keep in mind, I think as has been shared earlier, what is our impact or what are we doing in people's communities? They're going to want to know that. And so the ledge briefings that were put together talk about, grants that we have supported that are specific to those communities, sponsorships, any partnerships that we have. And so that's also something that we want to include. So again, quarterly participation during these neighborhood board agendas.
So we're increasing our ground game. That's what we're doing, right? As I recall, neighborhood boards are only on Oahu, right? So we'll need to devise a plan by which to address the communities of the other islands. No, no need? Oh, okay. All right, so let's do this first and we'll see where it takes us. Yeah,
Can I
oh,
share?
okay. Well, Jermaine,
Yes,
yeah,
Chair.
the trustees, I was advised to go to Jermaine. And then we'll go around the table for questions for Kiao, okay? All right,
Thank you,
Jermaine.
Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
I appreciate it. Mahalo, Chair Galatera, for this opportunity to give public testimony on this agenda item. I was taking some screenshots to try to follow along. I appreciate that OHA will be coming out on a quarterly basis. Mahalo. Anytime that OHA can come out is we're open to it. I just wanted to bring to your attention that usually when you give a presentation, there's going to be questions from the community members and then the board members. And so if at any time, because you're not coming back the following month, you can just go ahead and email the chairs of each of the boards. So then that way that they can send it out to their board members, the responses, but also we can post it on our Google Drive and then let the community members know if they had asked a question to OHA that was not responded, they can go to the Google Drive to get that after OHA's respond to the questions that were posed during their quarterly. We always got quarterly meetings for transportation as well, and that worked out as well too, and where they would give us the responses. I appreciate that OHA will be giving the Mauli strategic plan, the biennial budget, and potentially bring some applications for the Hawaiian Registry Program. I just cannot emphasize enough how important it is for OHA to develop that Hawaiian Registry Program. I know the original intention for it was so that they could do federal recognition or could do a nation building, but I think we need to practice the nation building right now, where our relationship with OHA is going to be our relationship with a potential new nation. And I think that's why people hesitate to onboard with OHA, because if you're not engaging with us now, what makes us think that new leadership would engage with us? And so I'm just grateful for OHA's new administration and new potential new strategic plan in order to engage more with the community, and especially those with high populations of Native Hawaiians, such as Nanakuli Maili. But I noticed that you don't have Kapolei, which is the second highest population on Oahu, is in Kapolei. So you may want to add Makana Paris's neighborhood board, which is Kapolei, Makakilo, Honokai Hale, and Ko'olina. It's all in one neighborhood board. And reach out to Chair Makana Paris regarding their neighborhood board. They're an amazing neighborhood board. Oh, I see it. There it is. Makakilo Kapolei Kalamai. I'm sorry. My eyes went down. I didn't see it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to OHA coming out and engaging with us. And that's all I have to say. Keo kuapu. God bless all of you.
Okay, mahalo for that. Trustees, any questions? Trustee Okaka.
Mahalo. Keho, can you share more on some of the things that we discussed yesterday in terms of having the information available to our beneficiaries and those board members and those tuning in person, online, and watching on TV? As it goes in terms of answering that question of what OHA does, why we exist, and so forth, and how we were talking about the use of QR codes as well as the Olokai coloring books. Or Olokai, okay, mahalo.
So so in our planning meeting yesterday, we did talk about like how to make this information available. So a packet's already been sent to the board. But when people come up and do community presentations, one, you can have a PowerPoint and they will share that. Two, a lot of the area legislators will also come, and so normally they have a table and they provide information there. So what we want to do is have a QR code so that people can just easily, connect and be able to access information. With comms, we're planning to post. So what we share in the neighborhood boards, also post that on our website so that people can access the information that was shared at the boards. We talked about a lot. Am I missing it? I'm probably missing something.
We did cover a lot, and we covered a lot regarding the Hawaiian Registry Program and how we can implement it, where we make this information available to the neighborhood boards ahead of time, and how we can prepare for future quarterly participation so that our beneficiaries are ready with their pala, and talking about what that means in terms of our servicing them with our card making machines and so forth, and how we can properly prepare for that.
Hold on, Vice Chair. Trustee Souza? Oh, Trustee Kahele, I'm sorry. Call my Trustee Kahele and then Trustee Waihe.
Hey, thanks, Chair. Hi, Kehal. Thanks so much for this presentation. I have a few questions. How did we land on quarterly attendance? How was that decision made?
Honestly, we want to start quarterly. That's the bandwidth that we have at this time, at least to start quarterly versus monthly attendance. The list of those who will be going out and participating and presenting, it's a short list. And so we want to, just again, we targeted quarterly as a start. We would love to expand that if it makes sense. It would definitely make sense for deepening and establishing Pilina with the board, with the community members, and you have your regulars who show up at these meetings. But that's it. One, like, what would be a reasonable start? Two, given the bandwidth of the administrative staff.
Okay, I mean, looking at the list, my only thoughts are and comment is, I mean, I think we can do this monthly. I don't think it needs to wait to be quarterly. As an example, if you have, I mean, I'm looking at the list of names of individuals that are willing to participate. I mean, I myself am willing to participate if given the opportunity. I see Trustee Akaka is on here. As an example, Hailama is on too, right? Alamana, Kaka'ako, and Kaneohe. So those are two neighborhood boards that he would be participating in once a month, twice, on two different, well, in his case, it would be the fourth Tuesday and the third Thursday. I don't think that's unreasonable to do it on a monthly basis. I think our goal should be to do it on a monthly basis and to use as much help as we can from others. And so I would encourage us to strive to do that. And I only say this is because in my previous role that I had serving in Congress, we had 12 neighborhood boards in the 2nd Congressional District, and we were on every single one every month for 2 years. And it's extremely beneficial to be on them. And I think we can do it given the looks like about a dozen or so neighborhood boards that we've selected for Oʻahu. And so I would encourage you to relook at that. I think quarterly is not enough. That would be my recommendation. My second comment would be on the meeting agenda, looking at the purpose. So I see it says meeting agenda to not exceed 5 items as there is a 10-minute time limit. Is it the goal of these quarterly reports, or OHA's presence quarterly, is to give a more robust presentation to the neighborhood board?
Yeah, we would use the quarterly updates to give robust presentations, right? What's happening in the organization, and again, being strategic about going in just before ledge session opens, coming in when, we have to get community input on our biennium budget presentations, coming in at the end of our fiscal year where we can share, some of the accomplishments that we've done. Actually, that would probably be in October when our annual report's completed. But we did, I will share that we did have discussion about even if not providing an update or a presentation, attending monthly to be, to hear, to be present, yeah, to hear, to be present, to take notes, listen to what's happening. But it really is a bandwidth issue. So I think we can reassess. We may need to reprioritize, things that we're doing. Be open to so I also served on, well, I didn't serve, I was a mayor's rep for a neighborhood board. And I found it's important to show up in person. And so that's something else that we could consider. Some of these meetings are hybrid. If that's an option, if that's okay for us, then we could look at that too. But I just,
So my
again,
thoughts are, these are my thoughts, and mahalo, Chair, for letting me expand on this. I think it's more important that we're there monthly and to give our 2 to 3 minute update at each neighborhood board. If you look at the Nanakuli Neighborhood Board's agenda, of which Jermaine is on that neighborhood board, OHA is listed there along with the other government officials. I believe they have a 3 minute time limit. And that 3 minutes is an opportunity to give the community a quick update on what OHA is doing, maybe events, sponsorships that are happening in that particular community, to get questions and feedback during that 3 minute time period. And I think that is more impactful than doing a larger quarterly, longer update. I think we should do a more robust update once a year and ask each neighborhood board for that 10-minute block at a certain time of the year. Maybe it is when we're approaching the legislative session. That's the best time to do that. But I do think having that 3 minute presence on every neighborhood board monthly is more impactful for the community, because it gives them a chance to hear from OHA every month, express their concerns to OHA every month. It also ensures that our presence is there on a monthly basis. I have no problem with online or logging in remotely. It is difficult to go in person, and that is, can be a challenge. And if remote participation is possible, I've no problem doing that. It makes it easier for the OHA representative who's going to be participating to be online. So I like the idea. I think it's great we're moving in this direction. That would be my comments and feedback, that I think would make it more impactful. And I do think we have enough people on this list. A lot of people from the S&I team, as well as others, are on this list that can be added to this to accomplish this and kind of spread the duties to achieve our objectives here. But I think it can be tweaked, and I would encourage you to take a look at that.
Thank you, Trustee Pele. I saw how feverishly writing stuff down. That's a good thing too. Okay, Trustee Wahe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to say, whether we, attend in person or virtually, I think some of the neighborhood boards, and I'm specifically Kakako, that we should be at least monitoring their meetings, all their meetings. And the reason why is because a while back, HCDA passed a whole bunch of restrictions and regulations in Kakako Makai that we did not, we were not happy that they had done. And we made a lot of assumptions as to why that happened. But when I talked to HCDA, they said that actually, those were recommendations from the neighborhood board. And I'm not trying to absolve the former representative of things, but they do wield influence on HCDA, and it would be good to know what their concerns are with us, so that we can address them or alleviate them, or hear that before becomes some kind of HCDA new regulation.
Okay, mahalo. Thank you for that. Trustee Lindsay, did I see your hand up? Did you want? Okay, got it. Thank you. Trustee Souza.
Well, Mr. Chair, I do agree with Chair Kahele. The consistency, I believe, monthly, and even if we're not in the capacity of giving a report, just to show up and monitor, like Trustee Wahe said as well. However, I do believe, I see multiple names on here, but I truly believe, especially when we're doing follow-up, because I served on a neighborhood board, and there's a lot of follow-up questions, right? And sometimes we don't have the answer the next month. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 months because of our process. But I believe there should be some kind of consistency with the person or representative that is responding or that is showing up, because they may not know the dialogue back and forth and having to catch up. So if there is some kind of consistency in that way to show up at these meetings, I would recommend that. Mahalo. Mahalo, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do you want to respond to that? No? Okay.
Well, that is the intent, is that one person who is assigned, that they would be the one, the one responsible. So we did even talk yesterday about whose contact information is provided, and it would be that person, because they can establish, again, we establish relationships, right? Familiarity, become part of that monthly, well, was quarterly, but look like we're going monthly, that monthly neighborhood hui, so that is the intent. Some of them you see, like Trustee Akaka will be attending with our community engagement director. McKenna is one of our newer staff. So Stacy and I talked about, partnering with her at least the first few. But it is the intent to have that one steady representative at the meeting.
Okay, Trustee Akaka.
With my take on that was, and to further speak on what Kehal's responses with what you're sharing is, yes, yesterday we were talking about what that response would be in the Pilina building and so forth, and mahalo Bill Brennan, our comms guy, in terms of making that recommendation to, instead of us just having a general info@oha.org, this is the email, instead of it just floating around and figuring out who best to answer that question, we have that direct contact that attended that meeting. And I don't know if it would be every single one, it'd be that same representative, because for myself, I'm not sure how the decision was made on who attends what and so forth, but for myself, I'm not limited to just the Kalihi Palama. I'm gonna attend those that I'm able to as time progresses, and pivot as we have to, as other things arise with a kuleana that we do. So I think that's part of it, is the goal is to have that pilina be able to have that Q&A at that time and beyond that allotted time frame that we have, so that we can have that direct contact and response to the neighborhood board or those that are there to testify that might share their mana'o in terms of what we talk about.
Mahalo. Trustee Souza, one. Oh, Trustee Kahele. Okay.
Hey, thanks. Just one more comment. Hey, Kehal, have you had a chance to connect with the neighborhood board chairs at the 14 neighborhood boards that we have listed on here?
So our beneficiary services team, Ilima and Kaimo, have been working with the NCO and the neighborhood board chairs. And so we're not confirmed for all, I don't know how much this is, 14 for May. Some of them, like they've put us on the June agenda, but yes, so that's who we've been working with to get on the
Okay.
agenda.
I only ask because, I mean, having a good, solid relationship with the neighborhood board chair is important. Of course, asking to be added to their monthly agenda is important as well. In some cases, we are on there. In other cases, we're not. Like, for example, we're on the Nanakuli Neighborhood Board agenda, whether we were participating or not. On other neighborhood boards, we probably aren't on their agenda. So if we are going to go monthly, then contact the neighborhood board chair and being added to their government officials section, I think, is really important. It probably will also help us because it'll add to the less confusion of when we're going to participate quarterly for the neighborhood board when they need to do their agenda. If it's simple, we're going to be there every month. They just add us on to the government officials section. Perfect. And we can figure out how to staff it and make sure we're there for that 2 to 3 minute presentation. If we're going to be like jump or hopping every 3 months, every quarter, that might be a little bit more confusing for them. So just another reason why, if we can do it, we should strive to do it on a monthly basis, and then having a good, solid relationship with the neighborhood board chair is going to be important.
Mahalo. Mahalo. Oh, yeah. Trustee Lindsay.
Thank you. Along the same lines, as far as keeping in contact with our beneficiaries, many years ago, we started a Hawaiian organization meeting quarterly on the neighbor islands, not on Oahu. So this is almost like the neighborhood boards here, but it's called the Hawaiian organization. And this includes Molokai, Lanai, Maui, Kauai, and Hawaii Island. And actually, the trustees have been the head of this meeting, Chair, which means that we call all the leaders of the Hawaiian organizations together quarterly, and we meet and we hear each other's celebrations as well as problems. And as a result, everybody exchange phone numbers and emails, and we become a family of leaders for our Hawaiian people so that we can easily reach out. And I think none of the islands have it going on except for the island of Maui. And I believe that is the difference that Maui has over all the islands, is that the organizations are together and we're there to help each other. We know each other really well. And I think this is what has to be done on the neighbor islands to keep up with what we're trying to do with our neighborhood boards, so that the whole state is together, not only Oahu. Thank you.
Mahalo. Oh, Trustee Akaka.
Mahalo. Mahalo for sharing that. It's very interesting because I think it was previously in our BAE leadership meeting. I was wondering, like, what is the answer to the neighbor islands as we have the neighborhood boards for Oahu? What are we gonna do beyond our island community meetings that we have annually, Me'ai, Mana'o, so forth. I also wanted to share in just a brief history in recent years what has been done with the Nanakuli Maili neighborhood board meetings. When we would go, it would be at that time myself, then Chair Hulu, and then the administrator, CEO, Sylvia Hussey. And so that at that time we touched again about our mission, our strategic plan, our legislative package. And I felt that was very fruitful in having that kako'o collaboration that we didn't even ask for or expect, but the jubilation and being able to put something official together to stand behind us when it came to various things that we were advocating for. And so I think when as time goes by and we can gauge how we can best make the commitment with time and energy with those that are attending these meetings, I think maybe we can put that focus, as it was mentioned prior, when it comes to the preparation of the opening of our state legislative session, that we can have a wider group to be able to speak on what the efforts are and seeing how we can collaborate with with the various communities. And another thing that was mentioned, I think it was Elena of SNI, was for those that are attending these meetings, preparing for these neighborhood board meetings, that we look at past minutes to see what the hot topics are, to see what the concerns are, so we are prepared, and that anything that we are doing that is affecting that we can speak on that.
Mahalo. Well, we hope to be as robust as we'd like. You know, we have high aspirations for this program. So we start on Oahu, and then I would assume that we would hopefully take the lead from our island trustees as well as to how to approach their island with some type of model. Okay. Any other questions or comments, members? No? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move
Chair,
on.
Can
Yeah,
I give two
Jermaine?
feedback? Can I give two
Jermaine, we can-
feedback?
Pardon
Because
me,
I
no,
didn't
no.
have this
You've
list.
already, you've already,
Oh, okay. Well, I'll email it to you guys, because you shouldn't be on the Ala Moana Kaka'ako as a OHA. You should be on it, attend those just as a landowner, because we don't have Native Hawaiians living there in high volume. So I just wanted to make sure that you don't set your guys self up for to diminish your power as a landowner in trying to make an effort as giving OHA updates. So that's just my feedback. I'll go ahead and email it, and remote is better than in person to come out to
Okay, thank you.
Nanakuli Waianae. Mahalo.
Mahalo plenty. Okay, thank you. Mahalo, everybody. Let's move on to our legislative items. Okay. I'd like to call, is Lena Allah online? Okay, very good.
Chair,
Okay,
I'm
can you
online
please-
because I'm sick and I don't want to spread it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay, stand by. Stand by. This is going to be for 2025 OHA State Legislative Package Matrix 1. All right. Any testifiers on this subject, Leanne?
No testifiers.
Okay. Lena Allah, please.
So Stacy gave the update last week in terms of our budget bill getting reduced on the Senate side. And that is in fact what got passed out of the conference committee last Monday was the Senate side version, which had the reductions in it that she discussed last week. So that is what is moving forward, as well as our resolution. So that's just an update.
Is that for Matrix 1?
Yes.
Okay, trustees, any comments or questions? No, seeing none. Let's proceed with OHA position on bills naming OHA in Matrix 2, Lay.
So Matrix 2 is also just an update with respect to SB 903. I think it's up a page or two, Kyla. SB 903, which was the funding, there it is, which was the funding vehicle for the audit and inventory, but also had different versions that had that language about settlement that we were opposed to. And it ended up dying in conference committee. The Hawaiian chair's perspective is that it still had language that would have forced us into settlement discussions rather than just a clean funding of the audit and inventory. So they were not willing to move it forward in that form. So it is dead. So that's unfortunate as far as the funding portion of the bill, but it is a better outcome as far as the settlement language that we were concerned about.
So no action is required on this matrix. Am I
No
hearing that?
action is required. I just wanted to provide that update with respect to SB 903.
Okay, very good. Any testifiers, Leanne? Who's that? Okay, Jermaine, you on?
Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
You're up.
Mahalo for this opportunity to speak on Senate Bill 903, item number 2 on the Matrix 2. I just wanted to extend my mahalo to Senator Richards and House of Representatives Tarnas for, quote, killing this bill or deferring this bill indefinitely. But they did say that they were going to work with OHA to try to get the Public Land Trust working group in next year's legislative session. I noticed that you have this on executive session for Senate Bill 903. I hope that, again, the discussion should never be about global settlement, but in respect the Public Land Trust inventory and completing the work of the Public Trust Working Group. I hope that OHA would consider doing the Public Land Trust inventory on its own, so that by next legislative year we can, since the Senate bills were killed regarding the Public Land Trust Working Group funding, that OHA would now fund it, since they changed it from $1 million down to $500,000 in Senate Bill 903 but then included the global settlement verbiage. Maybe OHA can start working on it. I hope that OHA would do it in order for us to come to the conclusion if we are due $78 million, and then after that do a lawsuit and say that we are due $78 million. Instead of starting a lawsuit now and saying that the state is not giving us what we're due, I think we should have the answer of what is due, not just on the 2016 report that was done by OHA, but to try to get those DLNR back at the table. And again, and maybe it doesn't have to be in a working group, but somehow, some way, since the working group was started, the legislature knows that there was a working group that was started. I think the jumping board should be off of, now let's do this inventory. And so thank you for this opportunity. Ke Kuapu, God bless all of you.
Mahalo. Any,
As a follow-up on Jermaine's comment, Stacy had shared last time that we're exploring the possibility of working with the administration.
is that you, Leila?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just responding to Jermaine's comment that Stacy had shared last time that we are exploring the possibility of moving forward with DLNR as part of the working group through a memorandum of agreement on the audit and inventory. But we are, we'll update you as that unfolds, but that is an option on the table that we are looking at. As well as she mentioned, as the Hawaiian chair is indicating their interest.
Lindsay? Trustee Lindsay?
I believe the working group for the Public Land Trust is still intact.
And, as a closing statement on this matter, if it's very important that if we proceed on our dime, that whatever we come up with is recognized by who it has to be recognized by. Otherwise, it's a futile effort. So that comes with a memorandum of understanding or agreement with somebody over there at the legislature. So that's part of it. I'm sorry, Trustee Lindsay? Or the governor, Okay? Yes. Okay, very good. Anything else on this matter? If not, there's no vote to be taken. And we move to the next item on the agenda, which is the 2025 legislature on OHA's position on bills affecting the public land trust. Leanne, any testifiers on this subject?
No testifiers.
No testifiers. Okay, Leonala, please.
So my question for the board is for Matrix 3, we had SB 739 as comment, and that was a bill that we were trying to get language added in because it allows for public lands to be exchanged for private lands. And this was the one where we did get language added in that the private lands that the state would acquire under any exchange would take on the public land character of the lands they're exchanged for. So they would still contribute to OHA's 20% share. But it did not, it was not amended to add in the language, which was our second ask, which was the HRS 171-67.4 language, as far as it going to a vote of the legislature before any alienation of ceded lands. So my question is whether we want to upgrade from comment, if we want to actually lobby the governor's office to veto that bill, since it was not amended in the way that we were trying to get done through our comments.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much for that. Trustee Akaga.
Yeah, I just want to see if you guys can put on the screen that when she's talking.
Yeah, so it says comment now, and I guess my request would be is that we actually change it to oppose, and then again actively lobby the governor's office to veto it. That would be my suggested change in position on that bill that did make it out of conference in a form that does not have that additional protection.
Leonala, just to give the board a sense of what the schedule is like down there at the legislature, where is the churn right now? What's the conference?
Yeah, so today things are getting the floor vote. So if it's come out of conference committee in the form, I mean, it's most likely going to pass on the floor. So the only target at this point in time would be a veto by the governor, which is why the request I'm making is that we ask the governor to veto the bill, because today is already the floor vote. So the floor, I'm sure it's going to pass the floor vote. I think that'd be surprising if it didn't at this stage.
Okay, so you're asking the board to approve a change or to ask the governor to veto this bill?
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Akaka?
I mean, without seeing the testimony, I believe that would make sense in terms of the concern if lands that are considered, huh? Is this SB 739? SB 739 on Matrix 3?
Yes.
So with the part of our kuleana, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, is whenever it comes to our Native Hawaiian Crown and Government lands of our Hawaiian Kingdom, also known as the ceded lands of the Public Land Trust, it's always important for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to have that mana'o imparted, and that's part of the education with our legislators and with the governor and any elected official and every county, state, federal body to know that it's constitutionally mandated for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to be a part of that conversation and for us to be consulted, and that this goes against the very fabric as to our kuleana that gets overrode and that does not match up with the Constitution. Mahalo.
Okay, mahalo for that. All right, so the recommendation then, Leinaola, is for the board to adopt a position, the staff's recommendations to veto the bill, correct?
Correct.
Okay, then.
Would it make sense to just oppose it altogether with that comment?
Well, by the time it gets to where it's got to go, it's already on the floor, it's going to move. I think the forecast is that it's going to move. So our only action is going to be in the governor's office next, because it's already,
Okay.
yeah, it's tied in already. Is that correct, Leinaola? Yeah?
Correct, yes. Thank you.
So the action on this bill, or the action on this matrix rather, is to adopt, amend the approval of staff's recommendations for the position on the bills affecting public land trust, specifically to, what bill is that again?
SB 739.
Okay, that bill to veto. Recommendation to veto. Okay, do I hear a motion? Okay, we hear a move and a motion and a second. Okay, very good. Any discussion, members? Okay, hearing none. Leinaola, can we vote, please?
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka?
Aye.
Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Alapa? Trustee Kahele?
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay? Trustee Souza? Trustee Waihe'e?
Yes.
Chair Galutaria?
Aye.
8 yes votes, motion passes.
Mahalo, members. We have one more item to discuss. OHA's 2025 position on bills affecting HRS Chapter 6, Iwi Kupuna Matrix 9. Leanne, are there any testifiers on this subject?
Yes, Jermaine Myers.
Okay. All right, Jermaine, you're up.
Mahalo, Chair. Thank you, Chair. My name is Jermaine Myers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on Matrix 9, Iwi Kupuna. Senate Bill 50 relating to historic preservation. I noticed that OHA says opposed. I don't know anything about Senate Bill 15. I'm just looking at it on your matrix. I'm just like you, I don't have enough bandwidth to monitor all of the bills going through legislature. But what I do know is that when it comes to the state's historic preservation program review on historic properties, NAHASDA funding is affected. So Native Hawaiians on Hawaiian homelands who want to apply for NAHASDA funds must go through this process right here, the state's historic preservation program. Their property must go through it before they can actually take the next step in applying for or being qualified for Native Hawaiian funds. So I think this bill would have helped DHHL if OHA had supported it. I'm not sure because I attend DHHL meetings, and one of the things that came up last year, January, was related to this and how it affects the NAHASDA funds. Now, the NAHASDA funds can be used for down payment program, but of course, the application would be related to a property. Now, all properties that take HUD funding, which is NAHASDA funds. So with this bill, I think it would take into consideration, and I'm not sure, but take into consideration that if DHHL has developed a new land, then that land shouldn't have to go through this historic preservation program review process like all other parcels of lands that use NAHASDA funds. The last thing I wanted to bring up is that it's really important, and I can see another way of engaging with the neighborhood boards that could be beneficial to OHA, especially on a monthly basis, as
Jermaine, what
Chair
is it?
Pai had pointed out. No, because it has to do with it has to do with legislative, because our neighborhood boards, we can submit resolutions, no different than that resolution was submitted to HCDA, Kapolei, Nanakuli, Waianae. We can all submit resolutions. I submitted a resolution on Kahale, which ended up stopping a Kahale project that was trying to be developed in our community without going through the process. So
Jermaine,
I'm
once
just
again,
saying,
we're on Iwi Kupuna subject matter. What does it have to do with that?
I am talking, well, okay, if you don't want to connect the dots with the fact that it's a legislative process, so Iwi Kupuna could be an issue related to Iwi Kupuna, could go through the neighborhood board process. We could create a resolution and submit it to our legislators so that that issue can be identified, that it is a community kako issue that the community wants the legislature to support. So that's what I'm saying with regards to connecting this to the neighborhood board. Thank you, Chair. Keal Kuapu, God bless all of you.
Okay, mahalo. Mahalo. Okay, Lena Ala, why don't you go ahead and chat with us on the Matrix 9?
So SB 15 is actually the reason that this matrix is before the board. This previously wasn't on the matrix because it was just on monitor. It was it started out as a good bill that had been introduced for many, many years and never passed, and it amended the definition of historic property. And it changed. And now it has language, and it says there to exclude residential property that are nominally sensitive areas from historic review, and it defines nominally sensitive areas as anywhere that's been previously developed. So, for example, the Naue issue on Kauai, that might have qualified under this new definition because it was on a piece of property that already had a house on it, so it was previously developed. So we are very, very concerned about the way that this bill has changed and has the could just open Pandora's boxes for far as exempting private property from historic review simply because, you know, they're old properties that have been built on for a while. That doesn't mean there's not a high concentration of burial that might even be known, and that definition doesn't allow for that possibility that there are properties where there's been development that might still have a high concentration of burials on them, even if they have not yet been previously disturbed. So we want to also veto this bill, lobby the governor to veto it. And I believe SHPT is, I don't know to what extent they can publicly lobby, but they're also very concerned that this new definition was snuck into this bill and how it would affect their jurisdiction. So they are also, you know, opposed to this new definition that made its way into this bill.
Okay, very good. Any questions, members? Okay, seeing none. There's a motion. I need a motion to adopt, amend the approval of staff's recommendations for position on bills affecting HRS Chapter 6E, Iwi Kupuna and Matrix 9. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Trustee Akaka, second by Trustee Waihe. Any discussions, members? Seeing none, Leanne, please take the roll.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Aquino.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Not present. Trustee Waihe'e. Trustee Galatario.
Aye.
Motion passes 7 votes.
Thank you, members. Okay, next we will be moving on to community concerns and celebrations. Anything to report? Members? How? None? Any testifiers for this issues?
No testifiers.
No testifiers. Okay. I'm all for that. Now, members, we have a interesting decision to make, whether we're going to executive session to discuss the legislative session, or we, defer till next time. Go ahead, come, Everett.
Good morning again, trustees. This executive session item was placed on the agenda because we needed to agendize it ahead of knowing what was going to happen with SB 903 in conference committee. But given that it has been indefinitely deferred, I don't think it's necessary to have this discussion unless the board is so inclined.
Okay, hearing that, I'd like to know the pleasure of the board to discuss this or not. We can do it, or it's up. Okay. Okay, that's a good idea. Let's wait till the Kapuana comes back, and then we'll discuss this, because it's going to be next year anyway that we're dealing with this. Okay, if that's okay with the board. And we'll agendize it as such later on when we have the time. Okay, so that moves us out of, we're not going to be doing that agenda item. Okay, now, can I have a motion to move back into, no, not that. Because we never went anywhere. Okay, I'd like a motion to adjourn the April 30th, 2025 meeting of the Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment. Motion? So moved?
So
Second?
moved.
Moved and seconded. Okay, any discussion on this? Hoping there's none. Yeah, Vice Chair.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that we participated in the Merry Monarch Royal Parade just this past week, and present there was myself, Chair Emerita Lindsay, Keone Souza, and the board chair, Kai Kahele. And the day prior, we celebrated the blessing and the opening of the, or I'd say the beautifully renovated Hilo location, the office there for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to serve our beneficiaries there. And present there was Trustee Luana Alapa, Trustee Keone Souza, Chair Emerita Lindsay, Trustee Ahuna, Board Chair Kahele, and myself. Am I missing anyone? As well as many of our support staff and administration and those that help service our Hawaii Island community and on Oʻahu that were kako'oing for the various things happening that week. It was a beautiful celebration to see our High Hawaii large, grand, and proudly waving throughout the parade. And it was so beautiful to see the attendees pining for the High Hawaii, the mini High Hawaii that we were passing out along the parade route. So that was really nice. Very, very nice.
As a spectator, and I'm not a hula guy, but there were some interesting performances, very top shelf, and some rather provocative, But all in all, I think it was a great Merry Monarch Festival. Thank you for that, Vice Chair. All right, any other discussion, members? We have a motion. Okay, Leanne, please.
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Akaka.
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Galutaria.
Aye.
8 yes votes.
All right, mahalo, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
Can you all give us about 10, 15 minutes to set up for it?